Imagine pulling a penny from an old jar, barely giving it a second look, and then realizing it was minted during one of the most unusual moments in American coin history. A year when the U.S. Mint deliberately erased mint marks from coins. That penny could be a 1967 Lincoln cent, and its story is far more interesting than most people ever realize. The 1967 no mint mark Lincoln penny is a familiar coin to millions of Americans, yet it comes from a time when the U.S. coin system was under pressure. Collectors were blamed for a national coin shortage, and the mint made decisions that still confuse people today. This small copper-colored coin is not just pocket change. It is a snapshot of economic stress, government policy, and everyday American life in the late 1960s. To understand this coin, we need to go back to the year 1967. The United States was deep into the Vietnam War era. Inflation was rising, metal prices were climbing, and something unexpected was happening across the country. Coins were disappearing from circulation. People believed collectors were hoarding coins, hoping they would become valuable. Whether that was true or not, the government took action. At the time, the U.S. Mint believed that mint marks were encouraging people to collect coins instead of spending them. So from 1965 through 1967, the Mint made a bold move. They removed mint marks entirely from all coins. That means pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and half dollars from these years do not show a D, S, or any other mint mark, no matter where they were made. So when you look at a 1967 Lincoln penny and notice there is no mint mark under the date, that is completely normal. This penny was struck mainly at the Philadelphia Mint, but also at other facilities whose identities were intentionally hidden. The goal was simple: get coins back into circulation and stop people from saving them. The Lincoln penny design in 1967 was already familiar. On the front, you see the right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln. This design was created by Victor David Brenner and first appeared in 1909 to honor Lincoln's 100th birthday. Above Lincoln's head is the phrase "In God We Trust." In front of his face is the word "Liberty." Below is the date, 1967. On the back of the coin, you see the Lincoln Memorial, which had replaced the wheat ears design in 1959. Inside the memorial, if you look closely, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated at the center. This makes the Lincoln cent one of the few U.S. coins to show the same person on both sides. The metal composition of the 1967 penny is another important detail. It is made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This was before the switch to copper-plated zinc cents that began in 1982. Because of this high copper content, many people today mistakenly believe these pennies are worth a fortune just for their metal. While copper does add some value, it is not enough on its own to make the coin rare. So if millions were made, why do collectors still care about the 1967 Lincoln penny? The answer lies in condition, errors, and history. While regular circulated examples are extremely common, high-grade coins are not. Most 1967 pennies were heavily used. They went through vending machines, cash registers, and countless hands. Finding one today with full original luster, sharp details, and no wear is surprisingly difficult. Coins that have never been circulated, known as mint state coins, can be worth significantly more than face value. A 1967 penny graded M-65 or higher by a professional grading service can sell for anywhere from $20 to over $100, depending on eye appeal. The highest quality examples with deep red color and flawless surfaces have sold for several $100s at auction. Then there are error coins. This is where things get exciting. Some 1967 Lincoln pennies were struck with mistakes during the minting process. These errors include off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned on the coin. There are also doubled dies, where parts of the design appear doubled due to a misaligned die during striking. Doubling is most commonly seen on the date or the word Liberty. Another known error is the clipped planchet. This happens when a piece of metal is cut incorrectly before striking, leaving part of the coin missing. These errors are rare and highly collectible. Depending on the type and severity of the error, a 1967 penny can sell for $50, $200, or even more. There have also been documented cases of 1967 pennies struck on the wrong metal. These are extremely rare, but when confirmed, they can sell for thousands of dollars. These are the kinds of discoveries that keep collectors searching through old jars and inherited collections. So how do you know if your 1967 penny is real or something altered? First, the weight matters. A genuine 1967 copper penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. If it weighs significantly less, it may be damaged or altered. If it weighs more, it could be plated or manipulated. Second, look closely at the details. The lettering should be sharp, not blurry. The edges should be smooth with no signs of casting seams. Fake coins often have uneven surfaces or strange textures. Third, be cautious of claims. Many online listings exaggerate values, using phrases like extremely rare or worth millions. In reality, only specific error coins or top condition examples carry high value. A normal worn 1967 penny is usually worth just 1 or 2 cents. One fun fact about the 1967 penny is that it represents the end of an era. After 1967, mint marks returned in 1968. The mint also began producing special proof coins again for collectors. The experiment of removing mint marks was officially over, and the government admitted that collectors were not the main cause of the coin shortage after all. Another interesting detail is that despite being common, the 1967 penny is often mistaken for being rare because it has no mint mark. Many people assume no mint mark means a mistake. In this case, it is not a mistake at all. It is a deliberate design choice tied to a specific moment in history. Collectors today love the 1967 Lincoln penny not because it is scarce, but because it tells a story. It reminds us of a time when the government intervened in everyday currency, when metal values were changing, and when the humble penny was at the center of a national debate. For new collectors, the 1967 penny is an excellent starting point. It is affordable, easy to find, and full of educational value. For experienced collectors, finding a flawless example or a genuine error is a rewarding challenge. So the next time you see a 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, do not dismiss it. Look at it closely. Check its condition. Examine it for errors. Remember that it comes from a unique chapter in American history, when even the smallest coin carried the weight of a nation's economy. And who knows? That ordinary-looking penny might just turn out to be far more interesting than you ever expected. What if I told you that a penny from 1976, a coin many people have handled without a second thought, could still hold a story worth listening to today? A coin born in one of the most patriotic years in American history, quietly sitting in drawers, jars, and old collections, waiting for someone to finally look at it closely. This is the story of the 1976 no mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, this coin looks ordinary. It's small, brown, and familiar. But behind that simple appearance is a moment in American history, a shift in how pennies were made, and a set of details that collectors still pay attention to nearly 50 years later. The 1976 Lincoln penny was struck during a very special year. America was celebrating its bicentennial, marking 200 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. While quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins received special bicentennial designs, the penny remained visually unchanged. That decision alone makes the 1976 penny interesting. In a year full of bold redesigns and national celebration, the Lincoln cent stayed classic and familiar. The coin features Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1976, Americans had already been seeing Lincoln's face on the penny for more than 6 decades. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial appears, a design that had been in use since 1959. So even in a historic year, the penny quietly carried on with tradition. When you see a 1976 penny with no mint mark, that tells you it was made in Philadelphia. At the time, the Philadelphia Mint did not place mint marks on pennies, so no letter under the date is normal and expected. Millions upon millions of these coins were produced, making this penny one of the most common Lincoln cents ever made. But common does not mean uninteresting. The mid-1970s were a turning point for U.S. coinage. Rising copper prices had already forced the U.S. Mint to change the composition of the penny in 1982. But even in 1976, cost concerns were already influencing how coins were produced. The 1976 penny is made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, the classic bronze composition used for decades. This makes it heavier and more copper-rich than modern pennies made today. That copper content alone gives the coin a quiet appeal. When you hold a 1976 penny, you're holding real metal value, not just a symbolic cent. Many collectors enjoy this era because it represents the last full generation of traditional copper Lincoln cents. Design details also matter. Lincoln's portrait on the 1976 penny shows sharp lines in the hair, strong facial features, and a clear bow tie. On higher quality examples, you can still see crisp details on the Lincoln Memorial, including the columns and even Lincoln's seated statue inside the building. These small features are often worn away in circulated coins, making well-preserved examples more desirable. So why do people talk about the 1976 no mint mark penny today? The answer lies in condition, errors, and collector curiosity. Most 1976 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent in circulated condition. That's the honest truth. But coins are not judged only by age. They are judged by how they survive time. A 1976 penny that has never been circulated, never been cleaned, and never been damaged can be worth significantly more than face value. Uncirculated examples, especially those with bright original red color, can sell for several dollars. Pennies graded in high mint state condition by professional grading services have sold at auction for anywhere from $10 to over $50, depending on the grade. While that may not sound life-changing, it is impressive for a coin that once bought almost nothing. Then there are error coins. This is where the story gets more exciting. Some 1976 pennies were struck with mistakes at the mint. These errors include off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing, doubled dies, where parts of the lettering appear doubled, and clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin is missing due to a metal cutting error. A genuine doubled die 1976 penny can be worth hundreds of dollars, sometimes more, depending on how strong the doubling is and how well the coin is preserved. Off-center strikes that clearly show the date and design can also sell for significant premiums. These are the coins collectors actively search for. There have been real auction results showing error 1976 pennies selling for anywhere from $100 to over $1,000. These are not everyday finds, but they do exist, and that possibility keeps collectors checking their coins. Identifying a real 1976 no mint mark penny is simple, but identifying a valuable one takes patience. First, look at the date. It should clearly read 1976. Then look below the date. If there is no letter, that confirms it was struck in Philadelphia. Next, check the weight. A genuine 1976 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. Anything significantly different could be a sign of damage or alteration. Be cautious of coins that look too shiny. Many people clean old pennies, thinking it increases value, but cleaning almost always lowers a coin's worth. A natural surface, even with light wear, is preferred by collectors. Also watch out for fake error coins. Some people intentionally damage pennies to make them look off-center or doubled. Real mint errors have specific characteristics, and when in doubt, professional grading is the safest option. Here's a surprising fact. Despite the bicentennial excitement of 1976, no special design was ever approved for the penny. The mint decided that Lincoln's image was too important to change, even for a major national anniversary. That makes the 1976 penny a quiet observer of history rather than a flashy participant. Another interesting detail is that many people saved coins dated 1976, thinking they would be valuable in the future simply because of the year. As a result, there are still many uncirculated examples hidden away in old rolls and collections. This is one reason the coin remains affordable today, even in high grades. Collectors love the 1976 no mint mark penny not because it is rare, but because it represents a moment. It connects Abraham Lincoln, the bicentennial era, and the final decades of traditional copper coinage. It is a reminder that history is not always loud. Sometimes it fits quietly in the palm of your hand. For beginners, this penny is often a gateway coin. It teaches the basics of mint marks, condition, and errors. For experienced collectors, it offers a challenge. Finding the perfect example, the clean strike, or the rare mistake hiding among millions of ordinary coins. And for everyday people, it carries a simple but powerful lesson. Not every valuable coin looks valuable at first glance. Sometimes value comes from understanding, patience, and knowing what details matter. So the next time you come across a 1976 penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it. Take a closer look. Check the details. Feel the weight. Ask yourself where it's been and what story it carries. Because even the most ordinary-looking penny can become extraordinary once you truly understand it.
Most people would walk right past this coin without a second thought. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary. But what if I told you that a single 1979 D Lincoln penny, hiding in plain sight, has sold for hundreds of dollars, and that certain versions are quietly hunted by collectors even today? Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you may never look at your loose change the same way again. This is the story of the 1979 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a 1-cent coin that millions of Americans have held, spent, and forgotten. Yet behind its familiar face is a fascinating moment in U.S. history, a transition in American coinage, and a few surprising details that can turn a common penny into something far more interesting. The 1979 D Lincoln penny was struck at the Denver Mint, which is why it carries a small D mint mark just below the year on the front of the coin. This penny features Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, a design that Americans had already known for decades by 1979. At first glance, it doesn't look special. But to understand why this coin matters, we need to go back to the late 1970s. The year 1979 was a challenging time for the United States. Inflation was high, gas prices were rising, and the cost of producing everyday items, including coins, was becoming a serious concern for the government. For decades, Lincoln pennies were made mostly of copper. But by the late 1970s, copper prices were climbing so fast that it was nearly costing more than 1 cent to produce a single penny. As a result, the U.S. Mint was experimenting, planning, and preparing for a major change. While the 1979 penny was still made primarily of copper, it represents one of the final chapters of the classic copper-era Lincoln cents. Just a few years later, in 1982, the composition would permanently change to a zinc-based core with only a thin copper coating. That alone gives the 1979 D penny historical importance. It comes from the last generation of pennies that feel heavier in your hand, sound different when dropped, and contain real copper value inside them. Let's take a closer look at the coin itself. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. This portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner and first introduced in 1909 to honor Lincoln's 100th birthday. By 1979, this image had already been part of American life for 70 years. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "In God we trust." To the left is the word liberty. To the right is the date, 1979, with the small D mint mark just below it. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall in the center. Inside the memorial, if you look closely, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated between the columns. Around the edges are the words United States of America and 1 cent, with E pluribus unum across the top. The metal composition of the 1979 D penny is about 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. It weighs about 3.11 grams, which is noticeably heavier than modern pennies. This weight is one of the easiest ways collectors can tell a pre-1982 copper penny from newer zinc versions. Now, here's the part that surprises many people. Even though more than 4 billion Lincoln pennies were struck in 1979 across all mints, not all of them are equal. The Denver Mint alone produced well over 3 billion pennies that year. Because of this massive production, most 1979 D pennies are worth only face value in worn condition. But condition changes everything. Collectors care deeply about how a coin looks. A penny that has never been circulated, never spent, and never scratched is called an uncirculated coin. And among uncirculated coins, those with exceptional color, shine, and sharp details can become surprisingly valuable. Some 1979 D pennies graded in very high mint condition by professional grading services have sold for hundreds of dollars at auction. These are coins that still have their original bright red copper color, with no dullness or wear. They are rare not because few were made, but because so few survived in perfect condition after decades of circulation. Errors also play a big role in value. While the 1979 D penny is not famous for a single major error, collectors have found examples with off-center strikes, weak strikes, die cracks, and double details. A double die error, where parts of the design appear slightly doubled, can significantly increase a coin's value if the doubling is clear and confirmed. Some error coins have sold for far more than ordinary examples. These are the kinds of pennies that collectors examine under magnification, searching for small differences that most people would never notice. So how much is a 1979 D Lincoln penny actually worth? In everyday circulated condition, it is usually worth 1 cent. In uncirculated condition, it can be worth anywhere from a few cents to a few dollars. But in top-grade condition, professionally certified, some examples have sold for several $100s. The value depends heavily on condition, color, and whether any errors are present. It's important to understand that online listings often exaggerate prices. Just because someone lists a penny for thousands of dollars does not mean it will sell for that amount. Real value comes from completed auction sales, especially those handled by reputable coin auction houses or certified grading services. If you think you might have a valuable 1979 D penny, there are a few simple steps you can take to check it. First, look at the date and mint mark. Make sure it clearly says 1979 with a small d beneath the year. Second, weigh the coin. A genuine copper 1979 penny should weigh close to 3.11 grams. Third, examine the condition. Is the coin shiny and bright or dull and worn? Are the details sharp, especially Lincoln's hair and the steps of the Lincoln Memorial? Be cautious of claims about magnetic pennies or unusual colors. A genuine 1979 D penny should not stick to a magnet. Strange colors are often the result of damage or environmental exposure, not rarity. Counterfeits of this coin are rare because the base value is low, but altered coins do exist. Some people try to change dates or mint marks, so always look closely at the numbers and letters under magnification. Now for a few fun facts. The Lincoln Memorial design on the penny was replaced in 2009, meaning the 1979 D penny is part of a design that is no longer used today. Also, because it contains real copper, the metal value of a 1979 penny is technically higher than 1 cent, even though melting pennies is illegal. Another interesting detail is that many collectors today are building complete date and mint mark sets of Lincoln Memorial pennies. The 1979 D is a required piece in those collections, keeping steady demand alive. Collectors love this coin not because it is flashy or famous, but because it represents a turning point. It stands at the edge between old and new, between copper and zinc, between a slower era of coin collecting and today's fast-paced market. The 1979 D Lincoln penny reminds us that history doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a jar, from a pocket, or from a handful of loose change. So the next time you see a 1979 penny with a small d under the date, don't rush past it. Take a closer look. Check the shine. Feel the weight. because even the most ordinary-looking coin can carry a hidden story, and sometimes a hidden value. And if this single penny has a story, imagine what else might be hiding in your change, quietly waiting to be noticed. Imagine opening an old jar of spare change, pouring out dozens of pennies, and realizing that one ordinary-looking coin might be worth far more than a single cent. Not because it's made of gold, not because it's ancient, but because of a tiny detail most people never notice. Today, we're diving into the quiet mystery of the 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin many Americans have owned, spent, and overlooked for decades at first glance. The 1988 Lincoln penny looks completely normal. It's the familiar 1-cent coin with Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front, just like millions of others. But this penny belongs to a specific moment in U.S. history, and in certain cases, it carries hidden features that have made collectors stop, look closer, and sometimes pay serious money to know what exactly is the 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny. In simple terms, it's a 1-cent coin struck in the year 1988 at the Philadelphia Mint. At that time, pennies made in Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark. That means if your 1988 penny has no letter under the date, it was made in Philadelphia. This alone does not make it rare, but it sets the stage for something much more interesting. The year 1988 sits at the tail end of the Cold War era. Ronald Reagan was president, the U.S. economy was changing, and the country was moving closer to the digital age. Millions of coins were produced to keep everyday commerce running smoothly. Pennies were still heavily used in daily life, from grocery stores to vending machines, and the U.S. Mint was striking them in massive numbers. The Lincoln cent design itself had already been around for nearly 80 years by 1988. First introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it became the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history. By the late 1980s, the design was familiar, trusted, and deeply connected to American identity. The front of the coin shows Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the words "In God We Trust" above his head, liberty to the left, and the year 1988 to the right. On the back, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, with United States of America, across the top, E pluribus unum, just below it, and 1 cent at the bottom. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, a detail many people never noticed. In terms of metal, the 1988 penny is made mostly of zinc, with a thin copper coating on the outside. This change happened in 1982, when rising copper prices forced the mint to alter the composition of the penny. As a result, the 1988 penny weighs about 2.5 grams and has a lighter feel compared to older, solid copper cents. So far, everything sounds ordinary. And in truth, most 1988 no-mint mark pennies are common and worth only face value. But collectors aren't just looking for ordinary coins. They're looking for mistakes, variations, and small details that separate one coin from millions of others. This is where the story gets interesting. One of the most famous and desirable varieties of the 1988 penny is known as the 1988 double die reverse. This error occurred during the die-making process, when the design on the reverse side of the coin was accidentally doubled. As a result, certain letters appear thick, doubled, or shadowed. On these error coins, the words United States of America and E pluribus unum show clear doubling that can often be seen with the naked eye or a simple magnifying glass. This is not damage and it's not wear. It's a true mint error, created before the coin was ever struck. Because this error was not caught immediately, a small number of these doubled die pennies entered circulation. People spent them. People saved them without knowing. And for years, they sat quietly in change jars and coin folders unnoticed. Today, that mistake is exactly what makes them valuable. While a normal 1988 no-mint mark penny is extremely common, a genuine 1988 double die reverse penny is scarce. Collectors actively search for them, and confirmed examples have sold for impressive amounts depending on condition. In circulated condition, a real 1988 double die reverse penny can sell for several $100s. In higher grades, especially those certified by professional grading services, prices can climb into the thousands. Well-preserved examples with sharp details and strong doubling have sold at auction for amounts that surprise even experienced collectors. The value comes from a combination of factors. The coin must be authentic. The doubling must be clear, and the overall condition matters greatly. A clean, lightly worn coin will always bring more attention than one that's scratched or damaged. This raises an important question. How can you tell if your 1988 no mint mark penny is special? The first step is to look at the reverse side of the coin. Focus on the words United States of America and E pluribus unum. If the letters look unusually thick, doubled, or slightly separated, that's a sign worth investigating further. The doubling should look clean and consistent, not blurry or random. It's also important to know what a fake looks like. Some people try to create artificial doubling using tools or damage, but this usually results in rough, uneven lines. True double die errors have smooth, rounded edges and a uniform appearance. If the coin looks scratched, pressed, or altered, it's likely not genuine. Weighing the coin can also help. A standard 1988 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. While weight alone won't confirm a double die, it can rule out certain fakes or damaged coins. For serious confirmation, collectors often turn to professional grading services. These companies authenticate the coin, verify the error, and assign a grade that helps determine its market value. While not every coin needs grading, it can be worth it for potentially valuable examples. There are also some surprising facts about the 1988 penny that many people don't know. Despite being relatively modern, it has already become a key date for error collectors. It's one of the most well-known double-die reverse pennies of the late 20th century, often compared to famous errors from earlier decades. Another fun detail is that many people have unknowingly spent these coins. Because the error is on the reverse, most casual users never noticed anything unusual. The coin passed through hands for years before collectors began identifying and cataloging the variety. Collectors today love the 1988 no mint mark penny not because it's flashy, but because it tells a subtle story. It represents a time when even modern coins could carry meaningful surprises. Proves that rarity isn't always about age. Sometimes it's about paying attention. This coin also appeals to newer collectors. It's affordable to search for, easy to recognize once you know what to look for, and still possible to find in old collections. That combination keeps interest strong and demand steady. As more people learn about the 1988 double die reverse, fewer examples remain hidden. That scarcity adds to its long-term appeal. And while no one can predict the future of the coin market, history shows that well-known error coins tend to hold collector interest over time. So the next time you come across a handful of pennies, don't rush past the year 1988. Turn the coin over. Look closely. Take a moment. Because sometimes the most ordinary-looking objects carry the most unexpected stories. And who knows, that quiet little penny, sitting unnoticed for decades, might just be waiting for someone curious enough to really see it. Look closely at your loose change, because one quiet, ordinary-looking penny from 1991 might be telling a much bigger story than you ever expected. Millions of people have spent this coin without a second thought, yet collectors still stop, stare, and sometimes pay surprising attention to it. This is the 1991 no mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like just another brown or copper-colored cent that passed through countless hands. But behind its simple design is a moment in American history, a changing minting process, and a few details that make collectors look twice. The coin we're talking about today is officially called the 1991 Lincoln Memorial Cent. When a penny from this year has no mint mark, it means it was made at the Philadelphia Mint. For many years, Philadelphia pennies were released without a mint mark, which often confuses people who assume something is missing. In reality, that blank space below the date is exactly how it was supposed to be. To understand why this coin exists, we need to step back to the early 1990s. In 1991, the United States was going through economic changes, technological growth, and the final years of the Cold War era. Cash was still king. Credit cards were growing, but coins were used every day for newspapers, coffee, parking meters, and public phones. The U.S. Mint produced billions of pennies each year to keep up with demand, and the Lincoln cent was at the center of American daily life. The Lincoln penny design used in 1991 had already been around for decades. Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner and first appeared in 1909, honoring the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1991, this design had become one of the most recognizable images in the country. On the front of the coin, you'll see Lincoln facing right, with the word Liberty to the left and the date 1991 to the right. Above his head are the words "In God We Trust." The details are sharp but familiar, which is why many people never stop to examine them closely. On the back of the coin is the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. If you look carefully, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial, making this one of the few U.S. coins to show the same person on both sides. Along the bottom are the words 1 cent, and above the memorial are United States of America and E Pluribus Unum in 1991. Pennies were still made mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating. This change had happened in 1982 when the rising cost of copper made solid copper pennies too expensive to produce. As a result, the 1991 penny weighs about 2.5 grams and has a bright copper appearance when new, but it can darken or wear down over time. So why do people care about a penny that was made by the billions? The answer lies in condition, errors, and collector psychology. While most 1991 no-mint mark pennies are worth only 1 cent, some examples stand out. Coins that were never circulated, meaning they were never used in everyday transactions, can still show sharp details, full shine, and original color. These high-quality examples are much harder to find today than you might think. Collectors grade coins on a scale, and pennies from 1991 that remain in near-perfect condition can sell for several dollars, sometimes more, depending on demand and certification. That might not sound dramatic, but remember, this is a coin that once bought almost nothing. Errors are where things get more interesting. During the minting process, mistakes can happen. Some 1991 pennies were struck off-center, meaning the design is shifted to one side. Others show double details, where letters or numbers appear slightly duplicated. These errors are real, accidental, and highly collectible. That a genuine error coin is not damage from circulation. It happened at the mint during production. That difference matters greatly to collectors. A true mint error can turn an ordinary penny into a sought-after piece. There have been real auction examples where high-grade or error 1991 no-mint mark pennies sold for significantly more than face value. Certified, uncirculated examples have sold for anywhere from a few dollars to over $10, depending on grade. Error coins can bring higher prices, sometimes reaching into the hundreds if the error is dramatic and well documented. These prices don't mean every 1991 penny is valuable, but they do show that condition and rarity within the population matter. When millions of coins are made, only a tiny fraction survive in exceptional condition decades later. One important question collectors often ask is how to identify a real 1991 no-mint mark penny and avoid confusion. First, check the date carefully. It should clearly read 1991. Then look just below the date. If there is no letter, no D, and no S, it was made in Philadelphia. Next, check the weight if you can. A genuine 1991 penny should weigh close to 2.5 grams. A scale won't prove value, but it can help confirm authenticity. Also examine the color and surface. Genuine coins will show natural wear or aging, not bubbling or peeling that comes from damage. Be cautious of claims that a normal circulated 1991 penny is worth thousands or more. Those stories often leave out important details, like professional grading, rare errors, or pristine condition. Real value comes from verified features, not wishful thinking. Here's a surprising detail many people don't realize. In 1991, the U.S. Mint produced over 5 billion pennies across all mints. That makes the date extremely common. Yet collectors still actively search through rolls and jars of pennies from this era. Why? Because the thrill isn't about how many were made. It's about how many survived untouched. Another fun fact is that children born in 1991 are now adults, and many of them are rediscovering coins from their childhood years. That personal connection adds emotional value, which plays a real role in collecting. Collectors also love this coin because it represents the final decade of the Lincoln Memorial design. In 2009, the reverse design changed, marking the end of a long chapter in U.S. coinage history. The 1991 penny sits quietly in that timeline, unnoticed by most, but appreciated by those who understand it. This coin reminds us that not all valuable stories are loud or flashy. Sometimes value hides in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. So the next time you find a 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny in your pocket or an old jar, don't rush to spend it. Hold it up to the light. Look at the details. Think about where it's been and how many others just like it disappeared over time. Most will be ordinary. A few might be special. And that possibility is exactly why collectors keep searching. Because in the world of coins, even the quietest penny can still have something worth dis. Take a moment and imagine this. Somewhere in your pocket, a jar, or an old drawer, there could be a penny from 1994 that almost everyone ignores. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary. But what if that simple penny has a story most people never hear, and in rare cases, a value that surprises even experienced collectors? Today, we're talking about the 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of Americans have handled, spent, and forgotten, yet one that quietly carries history, hidden details, and a few collector secrets that make it far more interesting than its 1-cent face value suggests. The 1994 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is a United States 1-cent coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Coins made in Philadelphia traditionally do not carry a mint mark, which is why this penny appears blank beneath the date. In 1994, pennies were produced in massive numbers, and most people never gave them a second glance. But collectors know that sometimes the most common-looking coins are the ones worth examining closely. To understand this coin, we need to go back to the year 1994. The United States was in the middle of a changing economy. Credit cards were becoming more popular, digital systems were expanding, and yet cash, especially small change, still played a major role in everyday life. The U.S. Mint produced billions of pennies that year to keep up with demand for circulation. The Lincoln penny itself has a long and respected history. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. By 1994, Lincoln had already been on the penny for 85 years, making it one of the most familiar designs in American history. The obverse, or front, of the 1994 penny shows Abraham Lincoln's profile, designed by Victor David Brenner. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "In God We Trust." In front of his face is the word "Liberty," and just below is the date, 1994. If there is no mint mark under the date, that tells us it was struck in Philadelphia. The reverse, or back, shows the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. If you look closely, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. Around the edges are the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, with 1 cent at the bottom. Now let's talk about what the coin is made of, because this matters to collectors. By 1994, pennies were no longer made of solid copper. Rising copper prices forced the U.S. Mint to change the composition in 1982. The 1994 penny is made of zinc, with a thin copper coating. It weighs about 2.5 grams and has a bright copper appearance when new, though many have darkened over time. So far, this sounds like an ordinary coin, and in most cases it is. The vast majority of 1994 no-mint mark pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. You can still find them in circulation today. But value in coin collecting often comes from condition, rarity within the population, and most importantly, errors. This is where the 1994 penny becomes interesting. While the standard version is common, certain error coins from 1994 can be valuable. Errors happen when something goes wrong during the minting process. These mistakes are unintentional, and that's exactly why collectors want them. One of the most searched for errors is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin planchet is not properly aligned during striking. The result is a penny where part of the design is missing, shifted, or cut off. Depending on how dramatic the error is, a 1994 off-center penny can sell for anywhere from $20 to over $100. Another collectible error is the broad strike. In this case, the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider than normal. The design looks stretched, and the coin is noticeably larger. Broad strike pennies from 1994 are less common and can attract strong interest from error collectors. Then there are double strikes and misaligned dies. These errors create overlapping images or strange distortions in Lincoln's face or the lettering. Even subtle doubling can add value if it is clearly a mint error and not damage from circulation. One of the most misunderstood aspects of coin collecting is doubling. Many people confuse machine doubling with true doubled dies. Machine doubling is very common and adds no value. True double dies are created when the die itself is engraved twice at slightly different angles. Genuine double die pennies from 1994 are rare, but if authenticated, they can be worth significantly more than face value. Condition also plays a role. A regular 1994 no-mint mark penny in average circulated condition is worth 1 cent. But a coin in uncirculated condition, especially one with full original luster and no wear, can be worth a few dollars. In professional grading holders, top condition examples have sold for $10 to $30, mainly to collectors completing high-grade sets. At auction, certified error examples bring the most attention. Off-center strikes, dramatic broad strikes, and unusual mint errors from 1994 have sold through major coin auction platforms and error coin dealers. While these are not life-changing sums, they show that even a modern penny can be desirable when it has the right characteristics. Now let's talk about how to identify a real coin and avoid confusion. First, check the date carefully. Make sure it clearly reads 1994 and that there is no mint mark under the date. Then examine the coin's weight if you can. A standard 1994 penny should weigh close to 2.5 grams. A significantly different weight could indicate damage or an unusual error. Look closely at the edges and surface. Real mint errors usually show smooth metal flow and consistent patterns. Damage caused after the coin left the mint often looks rough, scratched, or irregular. If you think you have an error, compare it to known examples from trusted coin references. Avoid cleaning the coin. Cleaning removes original surfaces and can reduce value, even for error coins. Collectors prefer coins exactly as they are found. There are also plenty of myths surrounding modern pennies. Some people claim all no-mint mark pennies are rare. That is not true. Philadelphia struck billions of pennies, and no-mint mark simply means it was made there. Rarity comes from unusual circumstances, not the absence of a letter. Here's a surprising fact. Many collectors today grew up spending 1994 pennies without realizing it. That year is now old enough to trigger nostalgia, especially for people who remember the 1990s. As time passes, even common coins become reminders of a specific era. Another interesting detail is that zinc pennies like the 1994 issue are prone to corrosion if the copper plating is damaged. This is why many look rough today. Finding one in pristine condition is becoming less common with each passing year. Collectors love the 1994 no-mint mark penny not because it's rare by default, but because it represents the idea that value can hide in plain sight. It encourages people to slow down, look closer, and learn. For beginners, it's an accessible coin. For experienced collectors, it's a potential error-hunting opportunity. This penny also reminds us that coin collecting is not only about money. It's about history, curiosity, and discovery. A 1-cent coin can connect you to the past, to the people who used it, and to the massive systems that produced it. So the next time you come across a 1994 penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the strike. Examine the details. You may find nothing special at all. Or you may find a small mistake that turns an ordinary coin into something worth keeping. And that's the beauty of coin collecting. Sometimes the most unassuming coin tells the most interesting story. Most people would never look twice at a 2013 penny. Feels too new, too ordinary, too common to matter. But what if I told you that one small detail on this coin has caused confusion, curiosity, and even unexpected collector interest? A detail so subtle that millions of people miss it every single day. This is the story of the 2013 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, this coin looks like nothing special. It's a modern 1-cent coin that many Americans have spent, saved, or ignored without a second thought. But behind its familiar face is a deeper story about American coin production, hidden varieties, and why some collectors quietly pay attention to coins most people overlook. The 2013 Lincoln penny is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 2013, Lincoln had already appeared on the penny for more than a century, making him the longest-running figure on any U.S. coin. In 2013, the United States Mint was focused on producing massive quantities of coins for everyday use. The country was slowly recovering from the effects of the late 2000s recession, and coin demand was stabilizing again. Pennies were still heavily used in circulation, even as debates continued about whether the 1-cent coin should exist at all. The 2013 Lincoln penny was struck at multiple U.S. mint facilities. Coins made in Denver carry a small D mint mark. Coins made in San Francisco are usually proof coins made for collectors. But coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint carry no mint mark at all. This is where confusion begins. Many people believe that a penny with no mint mark must be rare or unusual. In reality, for most Lincoln pennies, a missing mint mark simply means it was made in Philadelphia. That includes the 2013 no mint mark Lincoln penny. Philadelphia produced hundreds of millions of these coins that year, making them very common in everyday change. So why do collectors still talk about it? To understand that, we need to look more closely at what this coin is made of and how it was produced. The 2013 Lincoln penny is composed of 97.5% zinc, with a thin copper coating on the outside. This composition has been used since 1982, when the U.S. Mint switched away from mostly copper pennies due to rising metal costs. Even though it looks like copper, the coin is mostly zinc inside. On the front of the coin, you'll see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner. This design has been slightly modified over the years, but the core image remains the same one Americans have recognized for generations. On the back of the 2013 penny is the Union Shield design, which was introduced in 2010. The shield represents Lincoln's preservation of the United States as one unified nation. 13 vertical stripes symbolize the original colonies, while the horizontal bar across the top represents Congress. From a design standpoint, the 2013 penny is clean, modern, and symbolic. But its real interest comes from small details that most people never notice. One reason collectors pay attention to 2013 no mint mark pennies is the possibility of mint errors. Modern coins are mass-produced at extremely high speeds, and mistakes, while rare, still happen. These errors are where ordinary-looking coins can suddenly become valuable. Some known errors found on 2013 Lincoln pennies include off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned, die cracks, where small raised lines appear due to cracks in the coin die, and doubled dies, where parts of the design appear slightly doubled due to misalignment during the minting process. A standard 2013 no mint mark penny in circulated condition is worth exactly 1 cent. Even uncirculated examples are usually worth only a few cents. But error coins are a completely different story. Collectors have paid anywhere from $20 to several $100s for verified 2013 Lincoln penny error coins, depending on the type and severity of the error. Dramatic off-center strikes, especially those that still show a full date, can bring strong prices. Well-defined double die errors are also highly desirable. There have even been auction listings where pristine, high-grade 2013 pennies graded by professional services sold for more than expected, simply because they were preserved in near-perfect condition. While these prices don't reach into the thousands, they show that even modern pennies can attract collector attention. Another reason the 2013 no mint mark penny is interesting is that it represents a modern era of U.S. coinage that future collectors may study more closely. Coins from earlier decades were often heavily circulated and damaged. Today, many people save coins in rolls, jars, or collections, creating a much larger supply of high-quality examples. This means rarity in the future won't just be about age. It will be about condition, errors, and survival rates. A perfectly preserved 2013 penny with a notable error could be far scarcer than people realize decades from now. If you're wondering how to tell a real 2013 no mint mark Lincoln penny from a fake, the good news is that counterfeits of this coin are extremely uncommon. The value simply isn't high enough to justify widespread faking. Still, it's important to know what to look for. A genuine coin should have sharp, clean details, especially in Lincoln's portrait and the lettering. The coin should weigh about 2.5 grams. If it feels unusually light or heavy, that could be a red flag. The copper coating should appear even, not flaking or bubbling excessively. For error coins, caution is especially important. Many marks that look like errors are actually post-mint damage, caused by circulation, machines, or environmental exposure. True mint errors happen during the production process and usually show consistent, repeatable characteristics. This is why serious collectors rely on professional coin grading services to authenticate and grade valuable examples. Certification provides confidence and helps establish real market value. There are also some fun and surprising facts about the 2013 Lincoln penny that many people don't know. In 2013 alone, billions of pennies were struck across all mints. That means statistically, Almost every American has handled one at some point. Despite their low individual value, pennies collectively cost the U.S. Mint more to produce than their face value. This ongoing issue has fueled debates about eliminating the penny entirely. If that ever happens, modern pennies like the 2013 issue could take on new historical significance. Collectors also enjoy searching through rolls of pennies from banks, a hobby known as coin roll hunting. The 2013 no-mint mark penny frequently shows up in these searches, making it a familiar but still exciting find, especially when an error appears. What collectors love most about this coin is not its price, but its accessibility. You don't need to spend a lot of money to start looking. You can find these pennies in pocket change, old jars, or bank rolls. That sense of possibility keeps people searching. The 2013 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny reminds us that coin collecting isn't always about instant riches. Sometimes it's about knowledge, patience, and attention to detail. It's about learning the story behind something small and ordinary, and seeing it in a new way. Today, this coin stands as a symbol of modern American coinage. It connects everyday life with history, production, and the thrill of discovery. Most examples will remain worth just 1 cent. But a few, with the right condition or the right error, tell a very different story. So the next time you see a 2013 penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Turn it over. Study the details. Because in the world of coins, even the most ordinary piece of change can carry a story waiting to be discovered. And sometimes, curiosity is worth far more than a single cent. Imagine finding a penny in your pocket from just a few years ago and realizing it might not be as ordinary as it looks. A coin so recent that most people would never think twice about it. And yet, hidden in plain sight, this penny has sparked curiosity among collectors across the country. Today, we're talking about the 2016 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a modern coin with a story that surprises almost everyone who hears it. First glance. The 2016 Lincoln penny looks exactly like the cents you still see every day. It features Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Union shield on the back. But the key detail that makes people stop and look closer is something that isn't there at all. There is no mint mark. That missing letter is what turns a simple penny into a conversation piece and, in certain cases, a collectible worth far more than 1 cent. The 2016 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In the United States, coins made in Philadelphia usually do not carry a mint mark. This tradition goes back more than a century and continues to this day. In 2016, billions of pennies were produced to keep up with everyday use, and a large portion of them came from Philadelphia without any letter below the date. The year 2016 itself is important. It was a time when the Lincoln cent was already more than 100 years old as a design. Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the penny in 1909, making it the longest-running portrait on any U.S. coin. By 2016, the penny had gone through many design changes on the back, but Lincoln's face remained familiar and unchanged to most Americans. The reason the 2016 penny was made is simple and practical. The U.S. economy still relied on 1-cent coins for pricing, change, and accounting. Despite debates about whether the penny should continue to be produced, the U.S. Mint kept striking them in large numbers. This makes the 2016 penny a symbol of a modern America still connected to a tradition that began more than 2 centuries ago. Looking closely at the coin, the front shows Lincoln facing to the right, with the words "In God We Trust" along the top. The word "Liberty" appears to the left, and the date, 2016, sits to the right. The designer of the original Lincoln portrait was Victor David Brenner, and his initials, VDB, still appear on the coin today in a subtle spot on the front. The back of the coin features the Union shield design, which was introduced in 2010. The shield represents Lincoln's preservation of the United States as one united country. 13 vertical stripes stand for the original colonies, held together by a horizontal bar across the top. Above the shield are the words United States of America, and across the bar is the motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. In terms of metal, the 2016 Lincoln penny is made of zinc with a thin copper coating. This composition has been used since 1982, when rising copper prices forced the mint to change materials. The coin weighs about 2.5 grams and has a smooth edge. Nothing about its metal content is rare, but its condition and striking details can make a big difference. So why would anyone consider a 2016 no-mint mark penny rare or valuable? The answer lies in errors, condition, and collector interest. While most of these pennies are worth only face value, a small number left the mint with mistakes. These mistakes are what collectors look for. Some known errors from 2016 pennies include off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned on the coin. Others show double details, especially in the date or lettering, known as double die errors. There are also broad strikes, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider than normal. When these errors are clear and confirmed, the value can jump dramatically. A normal circulated 2016 no-mint mark penny is worth 1 cent. But an uncirculated example in perfect condition can sell for a few dollars. Error coins, however, are a different story. Collectors have paid anywhere from $20 to several $100s for confirmed 2016 penny errors, depending on the type and clarity of the mistake. In rare cases, dramatic errors have sold for over $1,000 at auction. These are not everyday finds, but they do exist, and that possibility is what keeps people searching their change. There have been documented sales where a 2016 no-mint mark penny graded in top condition, known as mint state 68 or higher, sold for over $100. These coins are nearly flawless, with sharp details and no visible marks. The grading process is done by professional services that authenticate and grade coins under strict standards. Identifying a real 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is straightforward, but spotting a valuable one takes patience. First, check the date and make sure it reads 2016. Then look just below the date. If there is no letter, such as D or S, it was made in Philadelphia. That part alone does not make it valuable, but it is the starting point. Next, examine the coin closely under good light. Look for doubling in the letters or numbers. Check whether the design is centered properly. Compare it with another penny from the same year if possible. A small magnifying glass can help reveal details that are easy to miss with the naked eye. Beware of altered coins. Some people attempt to remove mint marks or damage coins to make them look like errors. Genuine mint errors usually show consistent signs that experts can identify. If you think you have something special, professional grading is the safest way to confirm authenticity. One surprising fact about the 2016 penny is how many people overlook modern coins entirely. Many assume that only old coins from the early 1900s or earlier can be valuable. In reality, modern coins with rare errors can sometimes be more valuable than older, heavily circulated ones. Another interesting detail is that pennies from recent years are often saved in better condition because people are more aware of collecting today. This means high-grade examples are more common than they were decades ago, but truly perfect coins are still rare. Collectors love the 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny because it represents the idea that treasure can still be found in everyday life. It reminds people that coin collecting is not just about history, but also about observation and curiosity. The thrill comes from knowing that something ordinary could turn out to be extraordinary. This coin also appeals to new collectors. It is affordable, easy to find, and simple to understand. You don't need deep technical knowledge to start looking. All it takes is attention to detail and a willingness to learn. As time passes, interest in modern coins continues to grow. Future collectors may look back at 2016 pennies as snapshots of early 21st century America. While most will remain common, the best examples and rare errors will likely become harder to find. So the next time you receive change, take a moment before tossing it aside. That 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln penny might just be another cent, or it could be a small piece of history waiting to be noticed. Sometimes, the most interesting stories are hiding right in our pockets, quietly waiting for someone curious enough to look closer.